corner and stand here. While that happens, you see two more come in from the south. While they watch guard, the three go into the bank. And when things go bad, you see the third wave. That's the third wave of horses, which included Jesse James, who was keeping guard right across Bridge Square here by the Iron Bridge. So let's take a trip back in time, 138 years, and let's learn about the details of what happened that fateful day, September 7th in 1876. The city of Northfield in 1876 was a small, industrious community. Home to Carleton College and St. Olaf's School, even then considered a college town. The community was a rail center on a productive river. The Ames Mills, on both sides of the river, were the leading industry of the town. Imagine, if you will, Northfield only some 20 years old. The buildings were mostly wood frame with a few made of brick and stone. The streets were unpaved. The homes of the residents were built close to the downtown area. People on the street were ordinary citizens, merchants, and farmers. They were peaceful, yet determined people, used to dealing with hardships and not to be taken advantage of. Contrast this in your mind, if you will, with the James Younger gang. Who were these men from Missouri? Why were they so far from home? Why this bank raid in Northfield, Minnesota? Most of the gang members were Civil War veterans in their 20s and 30s who had been loosely organized under the command of William Quantrill. When the war was over, this group of former guerrilla fighters continued to terrorize the country by robbing banks and trains. The first robbery blamed on the James Younger gang was the Clay County Savings Bank at Liberty, Missouri in 1866. In the 10 years following their first robbery, 20 robberies had been committed by the James Younger gang. Most of the robberies left innocent people dead or wounded. July 7, 1876, 2 months to the day before the Northfield robbery, the gang held up a Missouri Pacific train at a place called Rocky Cut near Otterville, Missouri. Between the Adams and U.S. Express companies, the gang made off with $18,300, worth $366,000 today. Shortly after the robbery, a new gang member by the name of Hobbs Carey was captured and turned state's evidence. The gang had intended to head for Texas, but once Carey's confession was published in the newspaper, they all headed north by rail for Minnesota. The men decided that a vacation of women and gambling in St. Paul and Minneapolis, plus the possibility of a bank robbery, would be both profitable and fun. They spent a week in St. Paul, followed by a week in Minneapolis, staying in the finest hotels the city had to offer. From Minneapolis and St. Paul, they traveled by rail in groups of 2 and as many as 4 to surrounding communities in search of horses and looking over the banks in southern Minnesota, as well as acquainting themselves with the lay of the land. Posing as cattle buyers and land speculators, their inquiries about the area raised little suspicion. They bought 4 horses in Red Wing, 2 in St. Peter, and 2 in Mankato. The gang had first planned to rob the First National Bank in Mankato, but this attempt was aborted due to the number of people gathered near the bank. At this point, they agreed to head to the First National Bank of Northfield. We are gathered here today not to honor a band of outlaws, but rather to pay tribute to the heroism of the peace-loving citizens of this community, especially in the memory of Joseph Lee Haywood, a 39-year-old man who at the time of the robbery was the acting cashier of the only bank in town, treasurer of Carleton College, the Congregational Church, and the Northfield Public Schools. The heroic actions of the citizens of the community is embodied in the memory of Joseph Haywood today in many ways. A memorial plaque is located in the window of the bank, and we invite you to read it after the performance. It concludes, "Faithful unto death." A memorial stained glass window in the Congregational Church bears his name, and the inscription, "Fidelitas," faithfulness. Another plaque is located in Severance Hall on the Carleton College campus. It reads in part, "In grateful memory of Joseph Lee Haywood," inscribed by his friends as a tribute to heroic fidelity. Be faithful unto death. Today, the people of Northfield pay tribute to Mr. Haywood and all the private citizens of the community who sprang into action to protect their neighbors, as well as the economy of the city. Let us go back then to Thursday, September 7th, 1876. The place is downtown Northfield. All is quiet in this Midwest college town with local citizens and area farmers going about their business. The clerks and tradesmen are busy at their usual work, and a young medical student, Henry Wheeler, is seated in front of his father's drugstore, located directly across from the bank. On the corner of 4th and Division was the wood-framed Dampier Hotel, today the Central Block. Facing Mill Square were the dry goods stores of Lee and Hitchcock and Hiram Scriver, both in the same building as the bank. The hardware stores of A.R. Manning and J.S. Allen and Sons were next, also facing Mill Square. You are looking at the original bank building as seen in 1876. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Bob Younger, Frank James, and Samuel Wells rode across the bridge from the west side of town where they had eaten lunch. The men all wore linen dusters, not uncommon for the time, with so many men on horseback did attract attention. They tied their horses near the bank and walked to the corner where they could observe their comrades taking position near the bridge and also coming from the south on Division. As Cole Younger and Clell Miller rode up Division Street from the south, the 3 robbers at the corner walked to the bank and went in. Miller dismounted, went to the bank door, and closed it. Cole Younger dismounted in the middle of the street. This action attracted the attention of several citizens. Hardware merchant J.S. Allen attempted to follow the 3 men into the bank, but was instantly seized by Miller. Allen jerked away from Miller's grasp and ran to the corner. On his way, he shouted a warning, "Get your guns, boys! They're robbing the bank!" Henry Wheeler became suspicious, and once he saw Allen's encounter with Miller, he too shouted, "Robbery! Robbery!" Upon this outcry, Miller and Younger sprang into their saddles and began riding up and down the street in front of the bank, chasing citizens away from the bank. The rear guard at the Iron Bridge came on the scene as soon as they heard the first shots fired. These men were Jim Younger, Bill Chadwell, and Jesse James. Meanwhile, inside the bank, Bob, Frank, and Samuel found 3 bank employees at work. Bank teller Alfonso Bunker stepped to the window to wait on the robbers as they came in the door. Seated at their desks were acting cashier Joseph Lee Haywood and assistant bookkeeper Frank Wilcox. The vault door was open, although the safe door was closed but not bolted. The bank employees refused to open the safe. They told the robbers the safe had a time lock and could not be opened. Even after Haywood had been beaten unconscious, Bunker and Wilcox refused to open the safe. When a shot was fired near Haywood's head, Bunker escaped through the back door. Wells fired 2 shots at Bunker, the second shot hitting Bunker in the shoulder. At this point, the battle in the street was at its height. 5 of the robbers were riding up and down the streets, shooting and ordering everyone off the street. The people on the streets took cover. Stores and offices were quickly closed. Wheeler had dashed to the Dampier Hotel and, securing an old Army carbine, had stationed himself at a 3rd-story window. J.S. Allen, who first sounded the alarm, alerted A.R. Manning of the robbery as he passed by Manning's store. When Allen got to his store, he began handing out guns and ammunition. The first citizen to arrive with a gun was Elias Stacy, who shot Miller in the face with a load of fine birdshot, knocking Miller from his saddle. Manning grabbed his rifle and headed for the bank. When he got to the corner of the Scriver building, he saw 2 men standing behind a horse. When he aimed his gun at the men, they ducked down behind the horse. Manning lowered his gun and shot the horse. As Miller got back on his horse, Wheeler put a bullet through his heart, killing him instantly. Cole Younger rode to the bank door from the outside several times, pleading to his comrades to come out of the bank. And near the end of the battle, several men came out of a basement saloon at the south end of the block. Cole Younger shot one of these men in the head. Swedish immigrant Nicholas Gustafson died from his wounds 4 days later. Manning and Wheeler, with their big rifles, finally put the robbers to flight. Manning killed Bob Younger's horse and wounded Cole Younger in the hip. Manning also killed Bill Chadwell. Wheeler, from his vantage point in the hotel window, missed Jim Younger with his first shot, killed Clell Miller with his second shot, and wounded Bob Younger in the elbow with his 3rd shot. Bob quickly changed his revolver to his left hand, then mounted the horse, carrying his wounded brother Cole. 6 surviving robbers on 5 horses escaped south on Division. The battle was over. From its beginning to close, it lasted but 7 minutes. The funds in the bank were intact. 6 of the robbers were in flight, with at least 2 of them badly wounded. Lying in the street were the bodies of Clell Miller and Bill Chadwell. In the bank was the body of Joseph Lee Haywood. And now, we present to you the Northfield Bank Raid Reenactment by our present-day merchants and members of the James Younger Gang. At this point, the bomb team would form to go after the robbers. They'd steal a horse and saddle just out of Northfield to assist in their getaway. This chase would continue for several days, and finally 4 of the 6 are captured or killed near Madelia, Minnesota on September 21st. Now the James brothers, they escaped and successfully retreat all the way back to Missouri. An additional law enforcement was obtained for this. It ended up being one of the largest manhunts in U.S. history. See if everyone's okay.
This time they're okay.
Everyone will come down this way in just a moment. Once again, we'll be doing this at 3 and 5 today, along with 2 more tomorrow, 11 and 12:30.